The Passion narrative in each of the Gospels is very detailed. And it tells a story in great detail, unlike any other story throughout the Gospels. We hear of Jesus' ministry, we hear of his travels, we hear of his teaching, we hear of his miracles, but none of them have the same kind of detail that the story of the Passion is imbued with. It's almost as if, as the Gospel writers are writing the story, this is where they started. Like they sat down and started right here and told that story. And then probably went back and said, well, wait a minute, what if these people haven't heard about Jesus? Maybe we need to go fill in some of the blanks. The Passion is so central, so detailed, so important, because this is what it's all about. All of those healings, all of those miracles, all of that teaching, none of it really matters without this part of the gospel, without the part that saves us. What good is it to have our body restored? What good is it to have an inspirational teaching or an inspirational talk? What good is it to be given bread to eat if we're going to die and lose it all in the end? It's only good if it's pointing to something else. And what it's pointing to is this moment, the moment of our salvation. I'm struck as we've read this Passion narrative tonight, how little Jesus says in this whole Passion. It's a very long reading, and yet Jesus' words are very little. He speaks more at the beginning, and as it goes on, it tapers off. And not once, not twice, but 3 times, he pretty much just says to the people who ask him questions, if you say so. If you say so. That's his response. Peter says, oh, I will never deny you. If you say so. Judas, I'm not your betrayer. If you say so. Pilate, are you a king? Well, if you say so. How humble Jesus is. He could tell each one of them over and over again exactly what is going to happen and exactly how they are going to be at fault and exactly what they are going to do. And he could grind their noses in their failures. But he doesn't. Rather, he stands there in humility, knowing that this is what he has come for. That he stands among broken people. He stands among broken people. And he gives himself then in love to save that broken people. And that broken people is us. He comes there and he stands before us, with us rather, or in place of us even, to take our place. He takes away our sin. He gives his life up for us. It's not so much what he says, but rather it's what he does that communicates his goodness, his love, and his mercy. And perhaps that is the one thing that you and I can take away from this gospel tonight. That kind of humility, that kind of response. I don't have to fight the world. I don't have to right every wrong. I don't have to point out every failure. I don't have to do that. I simply have to love. I simply have to tolerate. I simply have to be patient. I simply have to give. That as Jesus gives himself, that's where the healing comes in. And it's hard for him to do that, I'm sure. It's hard for them. He would rather make those people believe. He would rather make those sinners pay, or make those sinners turn around, or make those people love him. He would rather do that. But he doesn't. If you say so, it's all in your hands. What do we say to Jesus? And what does he do for us? That becomes our choice. No matter what we feel, we choose to do something. I once read, a few weeks ago, months ago probably now, about the Francis papacy and his humility. Is it authentic? And the reporter, or whoever was writing, described Francis as a younger man, as an archbishop in Brazil or in Argentina, and described him as being a very headstrong, dictator-like, do it my way sort of guy. And he got burned by his own pride and gifts and talents, and hurt people and rubbed people the wrong way. And so he responded by choosing to do humble things, to live more humbly like that. Even if it isn't authentic, even if it doesn't feel always what he wants to do, he does it anyway. Because it's a way to teach himself how to be humble, even if it doesn't feel natural. Love doesn't always feel like love. Sometimes love feels very foreign to us because we don't know how to love as we should. But we have to do it anyway. We don't have to say much. We just have to do the act of love, even if it feels unnatural. There is great detail in this gospel passage, in the Passion, because it tells us who Jesus is and who we are. So we give ourselves to one another as Jesus gave himself to us for the salvation of the world. Practicing love. Practicing suffering. Love, suffering, passion. It's the same thing.